The smartest person in the room just made the worst call. You've seen it. Maybe you've been it. The leader with the most data, the most experience, the most at stake freezes, or worse, decides fast and decides wrong. Not because they're incompetent, not because the information wasn't there, because their brain was running too hot. Here's what nobody in the boardroom will say out loud. Overthinking under pressure doesn't make you more careful, it makes you more wrong. And the higher you climb, the more brutal this trap becomes, because the stakes are higher, the inputs are louder, and the internal noise gets deafening. I'm Dr. Silas Kincaid, and today I'm going to show you the exact neurological reason why high performers collapse under cognitive overload, and the 3-breath protocol that high-altitude leaders use to cut through the noise and land on the right call every single time. This isn't a mindset hack, this is architecture, brain architecture, and once you understand it, you'll never walk into a critical decision the same way again. We take the breath so we can grow the life. The architecture of a bad decision. Let me show you what's actually happening inside the brain of a smart leader who just made a catastrophic call. It starts innocuously. A high-stakes situation arrives, a merger decision, a product pivot, a leadership conflict that needs resolution now. The prefrontal cortex fires up. Good, that's the rational processing center. It starts gathering data, running scenarios, modeling outcomes. Everything is working as designed. Then the pressure spikes. A deadline, a competitor move, a stakeholder demanding an answer in the next 10 minutes. And here's where the architecture breaks down. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection system, reads the urgency as danger, not metaphorical danger, biological danger. The same signal your ancestors got when a predator appeared. Cortisol floods the bloodstream. Adrenaline follows. Blood flow begins rerouting away from the prefrontal cortex, away from the rational, deliberate, analytical brain, and toward the limbic system, the survival system, the part of your brain that is excellent at sprinting away from lions and completely useless at evaluating quarterly revenue projections. And here's the cruelest part. You don't feel this happening. You feel sharper, more alert, more focused. What you're actually experiencing is your brain narrowing its field of awareness to the most immediate, most emotionally charged option in front of you, cognitive tunnel vision. Researchers call this cortical inhibition. I call it the trap. When cortical inhibition sets in, your working memory, the mental workspace where complex thinking happens, shrinks from holding approximately 7 active variables to as few as 2 or 3. You stop seeing the full picture. You stop weighing the second and third order consequences. You react to the loudest signal, not the most important one. And the data is unambiguous on what this produces. Leaders under acute cognitive overload are 3 times more likely to default to their most recent decision rather than the most relevant one. They repeat, they anchor, they mistake speed for clarity. The trap doesn't punish the unprepared, it punishes the overloaded. And in 2026, with the volume of inputs, decisions, and competing priorities that modern executives face daily, overload is not the exception, it is the baseline. The 3-breath protocol. Now let me give you the tool. The 3-breath protocol is not meditation. It is not a relaxation exercise. It is a targeted neurological intervention that takes 90 seconds and directly counteracts cortical inhibition by shifting your autonomic nervous system out of sympathetic overdrive and back into parasympathetic regulation. Here is how it works and why it works. Breath 1, the release. Exhale everything. Completely empty the lungs. Not a gentle breath out, a deliberate, full, long exhale through the mouth. 6 to 8 counts.
The goal is not oxygen. The goal is CO2 elevation. As you exhale fully, CO2 levels in the bloodstream rise slightly, which triggers the vagus nerve, the primary highway between your gut, heart, and brain, to activate the body's calming signal. One breath, the biological alarm begins to quiet. Breath 2, the fill. Inhale slowly through the nose, 4 counts. Feel the lower rib cage expand laterally, not the chest, not the shoulders. When the diaphragm is the driver of the inhale, it sends a direct mechanical signal to the heart to slow its rate. Your heart rate variability increases. Your cardiovascular system is now communicating stability to the nervous system. 2 breaths in, the cortisol production begins tapering. Breath 3, the hold. Inhale to capacity. Hold, 4 counts. This is the regulation breath. During the hold, blood oxygen levels optimize, carbon dioxide finds equilibrium, and the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain you need for this decision, begins receiving increased blood flow again. The third breath is where your working memory comes back online, where the field of awareness expands again, where you stop reacting and start thinking. 3 breaths, 90 seconds. Cortical inhibition interrupted. Now here is what you do immediately after the third exhale. You ask yourself one single question. Not what should I do? That question's too wide. It will pull you back into the spiral. The question is, what does this situation actually require of me right now? That reframe is critical. It shifts the brain from threat response mode, where the question is, what will happen to me, to leadership mode, where the question is, what does this moment need? The neurological difference between those two framings is measurable. One activates the default mode network, the other activates the central executive network. The first one makes you anxious, the second one makes you effective. Deploying it in real time. Let me be direct about where this breaks down in practice. Most leaders who learn a protocol like this will use it perfectly in low-stakes situations, in the morning quiet, at their desk before the day starts, and then a board meeting explodes, a client escalates, a team crisis lands in their lap, and all good intentions evaporate, because the protocol was never stress-tested. So here is the field version, the one built for live fire. Scenario 1, the ambush question. You're presenting to the executive committee. Someone challenges a core assumption with data you didn't see coming. The room goes quiet. Every eye is on you. Do not speak yet. Let your silence read as consideration, because it is consideration. In that pause, complete one condensed version of the protocol, one full exhale, one measured inhale, one beat of hold. 3 seconds total. Nobody notices, and in those 3 seconds, your prefrontal cortex regains enough function to respond from analysis rather than from defense. The response you give after 3 seconds of regulated breathing is categorically different from the response you give in the first half second of fight or flight. One sounds like a leader. One sounds like someone backed into a corner.
Scenario 2, the impossible deadline. You have 40 minutes to make a call that will affect the next 2 years of your organization. The data is incomplete, the stakeholders are divided, your team is watching for your lead. Before you open your laptop, before you send a single message, before you touch the decision, complete the full 3-breath protocol. Then, take 60 seconds to write, by hand, the single most important thing this decision needs to protect, not optimize, protect. That 60 seconds of regulation and clarity will be the most valuable 60 seconds of your next 2 years. Because decisions made from a regulated nervous system carry a quality of thinking that decisions made from cortical inhibition simply cannot match. The data will be the same. The person evaluating it will be completely different. Scenario 3, the aftermath. You made the call. Right or wrong, it's done. And now the mental replay begins. The second guessing, the scenario running, the cortisol hangover of post-decision rumination.
This is where most leaders bleed performance quietly over time. The residual cognitive load of replaying past decisions consumes working memory that was needed for present ones. Use the protocol here too, not to stop evaluating, but to regulate the emotional charge around the evaluation so that it becomes learning rather than spiral. The 3-breath protocol is not just a decision tool, it is a full cognitive hygiene system. What happens when you train this? Here is what the research on high-performance executives confirms, and what coaches who work at the top of corporate, military, and athletic performance have observed for decades. Leaders who develop what researchers call interoceptive awareness, the ability to accurately read and regulate their own physiological state in real time, consistently outperform their peers on every measurable leadership metric: decision quality, team trust, crisis management effectiveness, and long-term strategic clarity. Not by a small margin, by significant margins that compound over time. The reason is straightforward once you understand the architecture. Every decision you make in a regulated state builds a neural record of regulated decision-making. Your brain learns to associate high-stakes moments with clarity rather than chaos. The amygdala gets quieter, not because the stakes are lower, but because the nervous system has learned from repeated experience that it can handle the pressure. Neuroscientists call this allostatic recalibration. The set point of your stress response physically shifts. What once triggered cortical inhibition begins triggering focused attention instead. In 2026, as organizational complexity accelerates and the cognitive demands on leaders continue to multiply, this is not a soft advantage. This is the single most leverageable biological edge available to any executive. It costs no money, it requires no technology, it demands only the discipline to train the inner environment with the same rigor you apply to the external one. The leaders who command rooms don't just think more clearly, they think clearly first, before the room has a chance to destabilize them. That is the edge, and it begins with 3 breaths. The ripple that changes the room. Now let me take this somewhere most leadership conversations never go. When you learn to regulate your own nervous system under pressure, something happens that is not about you at all. The people around you, your team, your direct reports, your peers, begin to regulate with you. This is the science of co-regulation. Human nervous systems are not independent units. They are social, relational, constantly reading and mirroring the physiological state of the people they trust and follow. When a leader walks into a crisis radiating biological calm, not performed calm, not suppressed panic, but genuine physiological regulation, the nervous systems of their team begin to synchronize. Cortisol levels in the room measurably drop. Cognitive function across the group improves. People start thinking in solutions rather than threats. The quality of collective decision-making rises, not because anyone got smarter, but because everyone got calmer. This is the part that stops most leaders cold when they first understand it. Your internal state is not private, it is contagious. And the culture of your organization, the psychological safety, the risk tolerance, the creative capacity, and the resilience is built daily from the inside out, starting with the person at the top of the room. The 3-breath protocol is not just about you making better decisions, it is about you creating the conditions in which your entire team thinks better, acts better, leads better. That is the real return on this investment. So here's the 30-day commitment I want to leave you with. Before every significant conversation, before you enter a difficult negotiation, before you open a hard email, before a performance conversation, before a board presentation, complete the 3-breath protocol. Track what shifts in you, in the room, in the quality of the outcomes. By day 15, you will have data you cannot argue with. By day 30, the people around you will feel the difference, even if they cannot name what changed. You came into this video because some part of you recognized that the thinking tools you've been using have a ceiling, that intelligence alone isn't enough when the pressure is real and the stakes are high. You were right to recognize it and subscribe. The brain that got you here was built for a different pressure. The brain that takes you further, the one that stays clear when everything around it is loud, that brain is trained, breath by breath, moment by moment, decision by decision. If this shifted something for you, send it to one leader in your circle who's making decisions under pressure right now, not as advice, as a lifeline. We take the breath so we can grow the life. I'm Dr. Silas Kincaid. I'll see you in the next one.